We don't often think about our digestive system, but it's like this silent fortress, constantly working to keep us safe. And most of the time, it does an incredible job. But what happens when that fortress starts to crumble from the inside out? Or what if it's hit with a sudden, massive invasion from the outside? Today, we're diving into what happens when this vital system is pushed right to its absolute limit.
So what happens when that internal engine finally breaks down? We're going to look at two completely different but equally dangerous scenarios. First, a slow internal collapse, and then a rapid external attack. Let's start with that silent siege from within.
All right, part one, the internal threat. We're talking about a long, slow process that targets one of the body's most critical organs, the liver.
This condition is called cirrhosis, and the analogy you see here is just perfect. A healthy liver is like a soft, flexible sponge, filtering everything. But with cirrhosis, years of chronic injury from things like alcohol or hepatitis cause scar tissue to build up. That soft sponge slowly, relentlessly turns into a hard, useless stone that just can't do its hundreds of vital jobs anymore. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow burn, a four-step cascade to failure. It all starts with some kind of constant injury. Your body tries to heal itself, but that healing process goes haywire and leads to scarring, which we call fibrosis. This scar tissue literally changes the liver's internal structure, blocking up blood flow and creating this dangerous backup of pressure. And that is when the dominoes really start to fall, causing problems all over the body.
And this is where cirrhosis gets truly life-threatening. The failure of this one single organ sets off a chain reaction, a cascade of failures that can quickly overwhelm the entire system.
So here's the bottom line. A scarred-up liver loses its two most important abilities. It can't filter toxins from the blood, and it can't regulate the body's fluids. This creates two huge, immediate problems that doctors have to get under control and fast. So how in the world do doctors fight back? I mean, if the scarring is often permanent, what can you do? Well, the strategy has to shift. It becomes all about managing the incredibly dangerous complications that the scarring causes.
First up is a condition called ascites. When the liver fails, all the body's fluid and pressure regulation systems just go haywire. Fluid starts to leak out of the blood vessels and accumulate in the abdomen. We're talking about massive, painful swelling.
The goal here is pretty simple. You have to get that excess fluid out. And doctors do this with a two-pronged attack. First, patients have to cut their salt intake way down. Second, doctors prescribe powerful diuretics, you might know them as water pills, to basically force the kidneys to dump more salt and water. The two main workhorses here are drugs called spironolactone and furosemide.
But here's what's so cool. It's not just about giving these drugs. It's about giving them in exactly the right balance. Doctors often use a very specific 10-to-4 ratio, 100 milligrams of spironolactone for every 40 of furosemide. This precise recipe lets them pull fluid out without completely wrecking the body's delicate electrolyte balance. It's a real tightrope walk.
Okay, the second major problem is, honestly, even scarier. When the liver can't filter the blood, toxins like ammonia, which is just a normal byproduct of digestion, start to build up. They travel straight to the brain, causing confusion, disorientation, basically a severe toxic brain fog.
The solution for this is just incredibly clever. The main treatment is a medication called lactulose, and it has this brilliant two-part mission. First, it's a laxative, so it physically speeds up how fast toxins are removed from the gut. But its second job is pure genius. As it gets broken down by gut bacteria, it actually makes the colon more acidic, and this change in acidity chemically traps the ammonia, stopping it from ever being absorbed into the blood and reaching the brain. It solves the problem before it even starts.
All right, let's shift gears completely for part two. We're moving from that slow internal failure to a rapid, all-out external attack, a full-scale invasion of the gut by infectious pathogens.
Now, not all gut invaders fight the same way. You can think of them as having three main attack styles. Some, like cholera, just try to dehydrate you with massive fluid loss. Others go for direct damage, causing inflammation and bleeding. And a third group, they act more like poisoners. They make you sick by releasing toxins, like salmonella does.
So, what's our battle plan against these microscopic invaders?
Before we talk about any fancy drugs or antibiotics, the number one universal non-negotiable rule is hydration. Losing too much fluid too quickly is what leads to shock, organ failure, and death. It is always the most immediate threat. And cholera is the absolute poster child for this. The bacteria basically hijacks your intestines and forces them to pump out insane amounts of water, leading to life-threatening dehydration in just a matter of hours.
But this is where medical science gets really fascinating. The cholera toxin wreaks total havoc on the gut, but it leaves one specific pathway completely untouched, something called the sodium-glucose cotransporter. This is like a biological backdoor. It means that even in the middle of a horrible infection, if you give a patient a simple solution of water, salt, and sugar, an oral rehydration solution, or ORS, their body can still use this backdoor to absorb fluid. This one simple discovery has saved millions of lives. It's incredible.
But hydration isn't always enough. Some bacteria, like Salmonella, require a much more direct counterattack with antibiotics, especially as these bugs evolve into more and more dangerous forms.
With Salmonella, the treatment has to be tailored to the threat. For a basic, uncomplicated case, the goal is really just to manage the symptoms with oral antibiotics. But if that disease becomes severe, the goal shifts completely to preventing total systemic failure, and that means hospitalization and powerful IV antibiotics. But here's the terrifying reality of where we are today. Bacteria are evolving. They're getting smarter. We are now seeing what are called extensively drug-resistant, or XDR strains of Salmonella, that are resistant to 5 different classes of our go-to antibiotics. This is what turns a normally treatable infection into a potentially fatal crisis. So whether we're talking about a liver slowly turning to stone from the inside or a gut being viciously invaded from the outside, the fundamental challenge is really the same. It's all about restoring the body's incredibly delicate balance.
And this all leaves us with a huge, critical question for the future. We've seen the sheer ingenuity of modern medicine, from exploiting biological backdoors to fight cholera to the precise chemistry used to shield the brain during liver failure. It's amazing. But as bacteria and other pathogens continue to evolve and outsmart our best drugs, the next war in the gut is going to demand even greater cleverness. The question is, will we be ready for it?